Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Today's warehouse needs to keep inventory moving smoothly and quickly. Meet these challenges with on-demand warehouse labeling from Brother Mobile Solutions. Our mobile and industrial printers will help optimize your operations to achieve the speed, reliability, and durability your warehouse needs. With easy integration for existing warehouse technology, convenient portability, and upfront affordability, Brother Mobile Solutions is at your side when it comes to warehouse labeling. Try one for free today by visiting brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse or click the link in the show notes. That's brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse to try one for free today.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Shaun Hagen. He is the COO and head of North America at Carton Cloud. And Carton Cloud is a cloud-based, as you may guess from the name, MS and TMS system. But really interesting is it's focusing more on the small to medium-sized business and really giving them some flexibility, but also efficiency gains as well, which I think we're going to hear more about from Shaun. So really interested to hear about this system, kind of how it works and kind of how it came about and is being applied in the fulfillment warehousing industry now. So Shaun, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very well, Kevin. Thank you very much for having us. Nice to finally meet the man behind the podcast after crossing paths at the Manifest conference. So thanks very much for having us on.
Definitely happy to get you on and definitely happy to cross paths at Manifest as well. It was a great show, I will say. So I'm definitely interested to learn more about Carton Cloud here. I think it's really interesting what you guys are doing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Carton Cloud here and kind of a little bit of the founding story too as well. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. And so the founding story of Carton Cloud is almost what kind of gave rise to what we sort of describe ourselves as logistics software built by logistics people for logistics people. And the reason we say that is that where Carton Cloud actually came out of roughly sort of 10, 15 years ago was our founder and CEO, Vincent Fletcher, had actually owned and operated a refrigerated warehousing and transport business in Australia. And it was about sort of 20 to 30 trucks, probably about 50 to 100,000 square feet of sort of dry, refrigerated and frozen storage space. And when he took over the business, it was very manual and paper-based, and had coming from a little bit of a tech background, went to market to try and find some software to help them, with some of the basics, getting electronic proof of deliveries, automatically calculating storage charges, barcode scanning, and for a small medium business at the time, that he was sort of surprised to find that there wasn't really much that was available that was specifically targeted to the SMBs. There were some very simple applications to get just say a proof of delivery signature, but it didn't do the transport planning and the charging, everything to go alongside that. And then same thing for the warehouse. There was enterprise or maybe enterprise light type systems, but maybe not something that was easy to use for the sort of people you normally encounter in a small medium warehouse. No one has a PhD in WMSs at those sorts of places. So I actually started to write some code and develop an application, not really to sort of turn us into a global software company, but as much as anything just to help improve the lives of the people in the business. And fast forward 10, 15 years, we've got a team of over 60 across a few different continents. But that was really our founding DNA, was out of the pain points of a small medium business, and that obviously gave rise to Carton Cloud, and we're now solely a software company, and that has that's been a pretty been probably 10 years that we've been separated from the logistics business. But our mission is really to improve the lives of logistics people. And we really do mean that, because we know what it's like when you can't find the right sort of solutions to help in that sort of environment.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing. I mean, I love that you guys are coming from that space already, instead of, coming from just maybe software tech background and just saying like, oh, let me come up with the solution for logistics and warehousing, right? Actually having that experience, I think, is probably going to give you such a better understanding of what that user interface needs to be like, and what makes sense for things to happen there. So obviously, it's born from a small to medium sized business, it sounds like. But I'm curious why, now that you've fully transitioned to just a software business, a tech business from the logistics space, why is the continuation or the focus still there to focus on the small to medium sized business?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that we get a lot, and I think also that we sort of revisit as well from time to time. And one of the big parts of us is, obviously it was in our DNA as a small medium business, but also I think recognizing the hugely important role that SMBs, which is an acronym for small medium businesses, that right. The huge role that they play in logistics. There's over 20,000 logistics businesses in the US, and the average size is around 20 employees. So as much as there are some big global massive providers, over 90% of the logistics industry is actually small medium businesses, and it's the lifeblood that keeps either people in rural areas or smaller brands that don't have the volume to get into an Amazon fulfillment center. It's the small medium businesses that keep those parts of the economy turning. And what was probably a underappreciated part of the economy post COVID, and right. Us really discovering what essential services are, I think has really shone a spotlight on these operators, and also the expectations of shippers and receivers with Amazon and pizza delivery, where you can almost get the heart rate of your delivery driver the whole way to your door. There's a need for these smaller businesses to have technology to compete, because otherwise they're not going to be able to kind of play in the 2020s with the expectations of shippers and receivers. So, us really seeing that as an underserviced market segment, we're focused on solving problems for people who need them to be solved. And really for us, making technology and automation accessible for SMBs is a challenge that excites us. These same businesses need mission critical software and digitization to let them play in this new market. And that's, that means that things have to be easy to use, things have to be intuitive, and also you have to be able to provide the ongoing kind of support and customer success to help these businesses get there, because they don't have huge internal IT teams or unlimited budget. So, it has to be achievable. And that's the sort of stuff that gets us out of bed in the morning, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think it's a great kind of mission and thinking there from you guys on how to help these small and medium sized businesses, because I think sometimes people start out trying to small and medium sized businesses, basically whatever customers they can get, and then when they start to scale and get bigger, like they're like, oh, we only want to go for the big fish now, right? But there's still that market that, as you said, is driving a lot of the the economy and what we do every day in our lives, which is really important. So it's great that you're focusing on that and also making it very easy for them, because like you said, a lot of small and medium sized businesses are not going to have those resources, so especially like on the IT side probably, that are going to be able to bring in some robust system or something that's maybe potentially larger than what they really need at the time, and the fact that you're able to support that and make that happen for them with making it super easy to use and put in place too, I think is a huge thing.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you've hit the nail on the head there, Kevin. These are often, family-run businesses, or, that you have people who are still operationally involved, and you have to work very closely with them, and we get that satisfaction. But you can also make a huge impact there. It's not a decimal place on an end of year sort of financial report for a huge business. It's people that really feel that, and that they can go and take on those clients that they might not have been able to before, or get some of their lives back, spend, whether that is taking their first holiday for 5 years, or being able to take a weekend off, and that sort of thing. So there's both the impact on the business and the market they service, but also the people who are running that business, and it's very exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you guys take pride in that and see the win and being able to provide that to these people. So it's really, really interesting what you're doing. And I think the positioning and the market you're going after makes a lot of sense. So you did mention there in the kind of the founding story a little bit about, how when the founder took over the business, and, there was a lot of paper going on. And I see too, like in your, I think it was on your LinkedIn and also the website, there's mention of like reducing the amount of paper and taking paper kind of out of the equation of the processes and all these things. So I'm curious, like, why is there such this emphasis on reducing paper? And, I guess, what are your thoughts on Carton Cloud's thoughts on, like, why is paper so evil, maybe in a sense, right?
It's a little bit of a cliche, I think, in 2023 to be talking about going paperless, but it's not just the paper, Kevin. It's what the paper means and what that signifies in the business. So no, I'm not. I'll save that for the theology podcast. So obviously there's the first tier of, paper isn't just admin time, but it is admin time. It's an expense of someone having to both, print it out, handle it, come back. It inherently means there's some element of admin or data entry that's involved in the process. And we have, I can give you quotes of customers saving 30 or 40 hours a week of admin time and that sort of thing. But my favorite one is the discovery call with the smaller business who doesn't want to talk about how many $1,000s of admin time. Doesn't mean it's almost like they're allergic to that conversation. But you say, have you ever found a docket under a driver's seat or a pick slip in the back of the warehouse 3 months later, and you see the look on their face like, oh yeah, that's every week, and it's like that piece of paper is potentially $1,000. That's just revenue that gets missed. So it's beyond just the admin time. It's the possibility of errors. It's the revenue leakage that's very hard to quantify. And again, customers say, oh, we've had a 57% reduction in revenue leakage. Some of them say it's 4%, but that there's something that's getting missed when there's paper and mistakes that can be made. But it also just makes people's lives hard. Like, we have everything else like is wireless and digital. There's an expectation for, I think, people who are working in the warehouse as well to maybe not have to be, scanning and filing or entering in data off of a paper, which is not to say that paper doesn't have a role to play in supporting documentation or additional, scannable pick sheets to kind of trigger a digital process. But, I think that it helps with improving the work enjoyment of the sort of people who are actually out on the floor. And increasingly, it's becoming imperative that the supply chain has digital tracking end to end with real-time updates. And honestly, if there's paper, you just know that might be a 5-minute delay, might be a 5-hour delay until that order is getting updated, and that, whether that's an EDI message that's getting triggered or just someone's portal that's getting updated, it deteriorates and erodes at customer service. So it's what the paper signifies, and that also, that does mean that it's harder for that person to do their job, as well as all of the other sort of value propositions around there. And it's an impediment to scale.
Yeah.
It's harder to grow when you're dependent on paper. So so although it's potentially a cliche, it's what it signifies and what it means to that operation to still be dependent on that piece of paper. That's what we're trying to get away from.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, and it's a huge thing too as well. And I teach a class as well in addition to the podcast, and my students, we go through like business process modeling and some aspects of the supply chain course. And I always tell them, like, you know, if you're looking at a process, like usually wherever there's paper, like you could make some kind of improvement there. Right. And I think, you know, it's funny, some of the examples you give about the paper being, you know, under the seat of the driver or something, or falling underneath the desk or something. I mean, I had worked at a place previously, and when I got hired, they were trying to like very much like move their business into, you know, like this time instead of like, you know, the 80s or something like that. They're trying to bring in all this tech. And as we were looking at what their processes were, they were picking on paper. And one of the issues they had was that they were picking on paper, but they were also like paying like by piece picked as well. So pickers that had been there a while got smart, and they knew like which papers would get them the most money. So they would find just like pick tickets, like from time to time, just like stuffed behind bins and stuff like that. And the pickers would just kind of like hide them, not pick those orders. And then by the time it was time to ship and figure it out, like they couldn't locate that order, they had to repick and all these different things. So I mean, the paper is certainly, I will say I'm on your team. I'm anti-paper with you guys as well. I mean, I see like the hindrance that it can cause and just the overall difficulties it can be. I mean, even on the, you know, just reconciling side as well, you know, you look at things like a customer says they were short a pallet or something, right? And you go back, you got to go through all these, you know, bankers boxes of BOLs or something to see like, oh, did we actually, you know, ship 3 or did we actually ship 2 or what was the case, right? And for the whole claims process. So having that all digitized and being able to just pull that data whenever you need it, I mean, is a huge advantage. So it's great that you guys are recognizing that as well. Because I think too, you know, a lot of the SMBs, small to medium sized businesses there, you know, they're starting out. And I think what I see too, as well, especially with kind of these smaller independent 3PLs that are like popping up more and more, is that, you know, they're born from somebody that's not necessarily been in the logistics space or warehousing space and doesn't necessarily understand all these things. So they may not understand that, you know, they have to keep all these papers or these records, and being able to give them an option to just pull that data and fully understand it and also speed up their process and efficiency is going to help them reduce their cost overall and maximize the profit. So it's really, really, really a great focus that you guys have on there. And I love that you're using that in your messaging too.
Absolutely. And I think you hit on some really interesting parts there. We are seeing that globally, that there's a lot of new entrants into 3PL warehousing from people who don't necessarily come from a logistics background. That's not, I wouldn't say, the major source of our growth, but it is a significant one. And I think it's been interesting because we also have probably done more of that, you know, intro to logistics. So you're a teacher, you know, we might be able to send some people your way, because sometimes when you're in that implementation process, you're like, okay, so that doesn't really make sense from a warehousing 101 perspective, but how about we do it like this? But generally with the appeal of going paperless as a guiding principle, you can usually get some great outcomes there. And the one thing I will say is almost going into bat a little bit for the SMBs, is it's not just an SMB challenge, this dependency on paper. And I'm sure you've had plenty of experience in this space as well, that I'll come back on this and we can talk about it next time, but I'll be surprised the day that I am not blown away by the size of organizations that I talk to who are like, oh no, we're still running on paper. And you go, you're a $1 million or $1 billion industry and you're still paper based. So, you know, the SMBs potentially have an opportunity to make some changes more easily than some of their larger competitors. So that's my rallying cry to the SMBs is, you know, you can do it easier than the big guys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say to that point, like my first job out of college was for a large book publisher, and I was one of my tasks was handling the damaging of, like, you know, obsolete products or scrapped products, and to do that they were still printing like on like carbon copy paper, like tickets for the damages. Like one, it was like a white Yeah, the triplicate, like like a white, pink, and yellow copy. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was like,
Yep.
well, the white copy goes to so-and-so, and the pink copy goes to so-and-so, and the yellow copy, like, you just keep at your desk. And I just had stacks and stacks of like yellow copies. It was like insane. But yeah, so it is pretty crazy. I mean, the amount of paper that's just out there that people are not necessarily realizing or taking the time to look at those steps in their processes and realize like the efficiencies they could gain by eliminating that paper and doing some automation or some system work there. So really interesting thing there. And I think it's great that you guys are focused on eliminating that as well. So if we look at Carton Cloud, we're focused on SMBs kind of as we were talking, right? Which is a great thing. And one of the things I think when we look at a system and we start to bring in WMS and TMS type of system, one of the scary parts is typically implementation, right? It could take a long time, takes a lot of resources, all these different types of things. But Carton Cloud, is cloud-based. So I'm imagining the implementation is a little more simpler and probably aligned with much of what you said about simplifying things for these businesses. So tell us a little bit about what implementation looks like for Carton Cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be happy to, because I think this is one of the things that we do. I think really well. I'd say best of our space, but certainly up there. And one of the kind of, I think, founding principles is that so Vincent and I, we like to be supported when we're working with our software partners by people who know what they're talking about. And that doesn't seem like an unreasonable request, but not always the experience. So our entire customer facing team is ex-operations. Everyone has worked in a warehouse, worked in transport. And what that means is at least when you're speaking to everyone, whether that's implementation or customer support, you're speaking the same language. So an implementation for Carton Cloud, and can't stress enough that every warehouse is different. But our average implementation time is a total of about 6 to 8 hours of contact time, which sounds like I'm making that up. But it's because we're cloud-based and has been designed to be easy to use and easy to deploy, it doesn't matter really whether there's, thousands of SKUs and multiple sites, or it's a very simple application. We still kind of hit that 6 to 8 hours most of the time, because things are bulk import, bulk export. When software is intuitive, you don't need to be told how to create an order, because it's obvious. It's really a part of our DNA, but making everything as easy as possible is makes it easier for then businesses to implement, which means it's cheaper. There's not as much cost, not from an implementation fee perspective exclusively, but also the time and effort to get it up and running and train your staff. I can look you straight in the eye and tell you, we don't even train our customer staff on the warehouse app. It's that easy to use. They pick it up and they go, okay, so I do that. Yep. Off you go. So,
nice.
So that's what an implementation looks like for us. So it's also implementing it to the extent that the customer wants to be implemented. But, we have the ability to support all sorts of workflows and barcode scanning and strict sort of, workflows, but that's not always what a customer needs. And you can go paperless without having to scan. Like, you're still saving a whole bunch of time and effort and money by, using the mobile app, even without scanning, if that's not where you want to be or not where you have the processes and maybe the customers to sort of support that. So, it's also working with customers to make sure that they're getting value out of the system. You made a comment at the start about small medium businesses, maybe not needing every feature under the sun that some of the larger platforms need. And that's kind of, again, you don't have to do all of that stuff in Carton Cloud. A lot of it's there for you to grow into and expand into, but it's, transacting and getting value within the first couple of hours and being able to get through that process in days or weeks, not months, is super important for SMBs, but also any business, to be honest, because software shouldn't be hard. You shouldn't, to go back to something I said before, you shouldn't need a PhD to drive it. It should be something that you can get up and running. And we've invested a lot of time and effort in documentation and, online academies that take people through that, which is easy for new staff training or a key person leaves, but also for people who want to self set up, a 3PL WMS. There's not many systems that will sort of let you do that. And we can get through that process in sort of 6 to 8 hours, which is, I think a really exciting part. And our customers enjoy it. They talk to people who, as I said, know what they're doing. And half of that time is talking about possible workflows and, chart structures as well.
Yeah. Interesting. And I love that you mentioned there, you're able to kind of grow into some of the features, which I think is a great thing. And you don't have to use everything that that you have there available, which I think is perfect, right? I mean, especially if you're just starting out or something and you're looking to have a system to get some, kind of organization and efficiencies in place, but you're not necessarily ready to do the full thing. Like you said, you don't necessarily have to do, barcode scanning if you don't have barcodes set up yet or things of that nature. I think that's great to have that flexibility. And, 6 to 8 hours is remarkable. I've done implementations for larger systems and, 6 to 8 months is maybe lucky, right? So, it can take much longer than that. So I think that it's great that you're addressing that in such an easy and simple way, like all of the other features you're doing as well. So really interesting stuff about Carton Cloud here, and interesting to learn about it, and happy to see definitely that you guys are focusing on making this very simplified and easy to use, not only from a user standpoint, but an implementation standpoint as well. It makes a lot of sense. And I think we need more simplification in our world. I mean, I think it only makes sense. It's overall the concept of our business, is box in, box out, but it gets very complicated in between sometimes. So having some like simplified solutions, I think makes a lot of sense. It's really good to see. So I'm curious if you could give some potential examples of like how some operations that have switched to Carton Cloud or started using Carton Cloud have seen like their business grow from being able to utilize the system.
Yeah, absolutely, and happy to, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, because obviously the business impact is the reason that people make software investments, and there's a couple of different angles here. One of them that's very common is businesses looking to expand the range of services that they offer, and that might be pallet in, pallet out sort of operations looking to get into pick and pack. E-commerce fulfillment doesn't have to mean 100,000 units a week. It can mean 100, 200, you have a couple of brands in one part of the warehouse that you're doing some fulfillment out of Shopify. So, those are generally operations that want to invest in software to help them do that a bit more efficiently, capture the revenue, potentially, a bit of efficiency in terms of workflows. And also, I think increasingly with the demand for warehouse space going up and supply not really keeping pace, sometimes that's additional services like cross-docking or freight consolidation for additional revenue streams that are maybe less space intensive or longer term, but that help diversify revenue streams with the existing customers that they have. And again, wanting software to kind of give visibility and sort of, automation through that process. There's some very big gains that businesses can make from improving their customer service. Integrations, increasingly sort of prominent, and that's not just Shopify, click and connect. It's two-way integrations into customers' SAPs and NetSuites. Those are beyond the reach of a lot of logistics businesses. That we partner with them to help them get those implementations or integrations in place. And what that's honestly meant is that a lot of our customers can take on work that they couldn't take on before, either due to the customer service they can offer, the workflows they can support, or the integrations they can achieve. And I won't out any names here, but they are some surprisingly small clients with, I must say, very good salespeople taking on some Fortune 500 brands in operations that a year ago they wouldn't have been able to. And one that I really am passionate about, but is that having less time focused on some of the stuff that shouldn't be difficult in the business gives these businesses the chance to spend more time on sales and marketing, which is often third or fourth on the priority list that never gets to the top for small, medium logistics providers. And being able to actually go and not just wait for the next referral, but actually, follow up and sort of actually come up with a plan of how they can grow and where they want to grow is really, really big. And I won't keep talking too long because I could talk for a while. But the last one is around, I think, the ease of use and the team happiness. It sounds like a little bit more of an emotive kind of value proposition, but what it also means is, happy teams mean less turnover, easier to recruit, and faster training time. So sometimes if you grow, it can almost be the thing that ends up causing you to fail, because you don't necessarily have the people to go and fulfill on that promise that you've made to a client. But having a system that is also intuitive, again, it's been a bit of a repetitive word in this, and I apologize for that, but it means that you can go and get someone who maybe hasn't worked in logistics, or you don't have a 3-month up to speed ramp up on learning the warehouse layout and how to use the WMS. plug and play. They can come in. So that's an important part of growing business as well, is being able to kind of keep, we're hiring people into warehouses that, they don't want to work on paper. That they want something that's easy to use. They want to feel like they're in a modern place. And I think that we can help with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that last point is so huge. I mean, especially as, we look at sort of the call out from most people over the last, couple of years has been just, difficulty to get labor, right? Labor shortage, especially in warehousing, and being able to, like you said, bring people in that maybe don't necessarily have that type of experience and give them something easy to use right away can certainly help you, especially as you don't necessarily, I myself, as someone who has a small fulfillment business as well, bringing in someone and spending, a month or so to get them trained up that's not really in the cards. We don't really have the resources or the time to just keep somebody extra on staff while they're learning. So having them come in and know what to do, very quickly and really understand and digest the system is a huge advantage to being able to bring people in, but then also, like you said, retaining them and keeping them in an environment where things are easy to do and they don't have frustrations and difficulties utilizing systems. So really great stuff from you, Shaun, here about Carton Cloud, and very interesting to learn about this system and kind of the capabilities it has and also the empowerment I think it enables for these businesses as well. So really great what you guys are doing, and be interested to see how it continues to grow into the future. If people are interested in learning more about Carton Cloud, how can they do that?
Yeah, great question. And the people interested in learning more about Carton Cloud, they can visit our website at www.cartoncloud.com and reach out. There's a whole bunch of material on there if people are interested in, whether that's watching some case studies or reading some documentation, or they can reach out to our sort of team there through the free demo form there. And that's a very product-led discussion where we try and understand customers' requirements and really, let the product do the talking and schedule a tailored demonstration from there so people can see the software in action. As I said, we let the product do the talking for us. So that's how people can find out, and we'd be obviously happy to chat to anyone who is interested by this interview.
Okay, great. And we'll definitely put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well. So Shaun, thank you so much for coming on the show today and teaching us about Carton Cloud.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.